can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Josh Payne of CoFrame. You can check him out at CoFrame.com. Josh, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. We have to mention Justin Christensen. I was looking at this today. He started Conversion Fanatics, sold it, and one of the top experts in CRO. Conversion rate optimization and many other skills. I was looking, I think I had him on almost 6 years ago at this point. That was a really interesting, that's how Josh and I actually met. And I had Ralph Burns of Tier 11. So, we'll talk about CoFrame and what it does, but there's a lot of agencies that actually can use them and help their clients as well. Ralph Burns is an amazing agency, Tier 11. He's also got one of the top podcasts out there. So I told Ralph, you must have Josh on your podcast. Howard Marks of Start Engine, who I had on the podcast, and Josh was telling me before we hit record, actually, we're going to talk a little about how Start Engine used CoFrame as well. Jason Swank, there's so many. Jason Swank built up an agency to 8 figures and sold it. And then he started a group, which he wished he had when he had an agency group, to help other agency owners. He also has a great podcast as well. That and many more on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise25. At Rise25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. So we do that in a couple ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, accountability, and the full execution and production. 2, we actually get people on podcasts, okay? I love making introductions. Josh knows this. But if you want to put it on hyperdrive and you want to go on a bunch at once, we have to set up a whole campaign and do that. So we will get you connected with some amazing people there. And 3, we're an easy button for a company's gifting program. So we make gifting and staying top of mind for your clients, partners, and prospects simple, easy, and actually affordable. You just give us a list. We do everything else. Okay. Usually we're setting up a campaign of, 3-4 gifts a year for multiple years, because I love to give to my best relationships. So Josh, we kind of call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background to make it stress-free for our company so they can build amazing relationships. And for me, I found no better way to profile someone who I admire, have them on the podcast, share with the world that they're working on. Also, send them sweet treats in the mail. So go to rise25.com or email support@rise25.com. I am super excited to introduce Josh Payne. He's the founder and CEO of CoFrame. He also co-founded Autograph with NFL legend Tom Brady. For that company, they raised $200 million at a $2 billion valuation, backed by A16Z, Kleiner Perkins. He also founded Access Bell. Access Bell was acquired by Tata Group. Tata Group, if you don't know, they own so much. They're a $400 billion conglomerate. When I was in London, I'm like, oh, Tata Group owns this hotel. Josh also created the first major autonomous AI agent for code generation, GPT Migrate, and he's authored over 20 peer-reviewed papers and patents. Josh, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Jeremy.
And, let's talk about CoFrame. Start off CoFrame and what you do there, and I'll pull up the video and we'll pull up CoFrame as you talk about it.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll give you the rundown. So at CoFrame, we are obsessively focused on helping companies increase their conversion rate. We do this with AI accelerated conversion rate optimization, so growth experimentation, testing out different variations of your website to try to drive more wins and more lift. Ultimately, the website for many businesses is a really key piece of their business and a revenue driver. And it's one of those amazing things where if you tweak that lever, it's pure upside. If you increase your conversion rate, it's pure. It's new leads, new purchases, et cetera, et cetera. And so we are very, very focused on helping businesses rapidly increase the rate at which they're able to get those wins and increase that conversion rate.
So what gave you the idea for CoFrame?
CoFrame emerged a little bit from reverse, I have to say, actually. As you mentioned just now, I'm very, very interested in AI for code generation. I think it's an incredible use case. It's something that I use almost on a daily basis now, and this is one of those use cases that it's just extremely helpful with. Now, from a website optimization perspective, I'm not coming from a deep background of, digital marketing, right? I'm coming at this a little bit as initially I was a little bit of a newbie for sure, and people like Justin, very thankful to them helping to be a Sherpa along this path. And in Autograph, I think it was the first place where I really saw the power of growth marketing and how that could really help scale a business quickly. But the idea for CoFrame actually emerged from one of these dinners that we hosted at a community called the AGI House that I'm part of. This dinner, we brought together a bunch of AI leaders. We were talking about the future of consumer experiences and digital interactions. And I had a thought throughout the middle of this dinner about what digital interactions and digital interfaces would be like in 5 or 10 years. And it hit me that every digital experience that we have as a consumer, should it in fact be adaptive and personalized and almost like living? So this idea that digital interfaces can themselves feel alive and be living things that are self-improving and optimizing over time, that was a really compelling idea. Something I'm profoundly interested in, generally speaking, is self-improving systems. And so I wanted to build something related to that. I kind of did it on the side, still working on Autograph at the time, but I was enamored with this idea and put something out there, launched it on Product Hunt, got some traction, and it turns out there's a really great business case application to this idea, which is conversion rate optimization. And from there on, we started building more and more capabilities into this, and it's become the thing that it is today.
So what are some of the learnings from Justin that helped shape the product? Because like you said, I mean, you've guest lectured at Stanford. We were talking about your background of 20 peer-reviewed papers and really geeking out on AI stuff. What was some of the feedback Justin gave?
Justin is a genius when it comes to conversion rate optimization. He's one of those people who knows the business in and out and is on the ground floor. He's able to really do the thing. He's not just someone who was a figurehead of the agency. He was in the weeds. He's like 20,000 plus experiments personally over his career. And so I can really think of no better person that has that level of insight. I'm very, very grateful that he decided to join us. But what we've learned from him, I would say broadly, is around the aspects of what's the core of conversion rate optimization? What is the actual problem that you're trying to solve here? It's finding what holds weight in the eyes of your visitors. It's trying to figure out what are the things that matter to this audience and build your own internal model of who this person is on your site or based on their persona. And so it's less about just, going and taking a big swing and having a big design first redesign of the whole page experience, but rather about systematically testing different elements of the site, trying to figure out in an iterative fashion what actually matters to the audience. And then each new test will surface insights that will help guide the next test. And that becomes an iterative process. And those types of systematic processes are exactly what AI is fantastic at. So I would actually say it's a perfect match because Justin's approach, I think, is one of the best suited for AI systems or machine learning based systems, which is really, really interesting.
There's a couple of questions I'm curious about. I mean, I have a lot of Tom Brady autograph questions, but we'll get to that later. Um, who is this for? And then I want to talk about getting customers because you have some huge companies as customers here. I mean, we look at OpenAI, for example. But who is this for? I mean, I see our agencies, like CRO agencies using this for their clients, and then obviously direct clients. Who are the best use cases?
Yeah. So for the most part, CoFrame focuses on customers that are consumer facing. The OpenAI one that you mentioned is not a customer. I don't think they would have much use for CoFrame, but rather a partner. And so this is more like, featured in. We had we have a joint blog that we wrote together. We worked with our team to create a model that was specifically designed for creating conversion optimization experiments. So far as I'm aware, we have the distinction of being the only marketing tech company that's directly partnered with OpenAI in this fashion, which is really cool. But CoFrame is really useful for companies that have a lot of web traffic, and the website is a key driver for the business. So companies that are in the consumer domain tend to be a really good fit for this. E-commerce companies tend to be a really, really good fit for this. Anything that where you move the conversion rate up on the website, it has a direct impact on the revenue or the profit of the business. That's where we really are quite helpful.
Is there like a traffic minimum? Like someone comes to you and go, Josh, we have X number of visitors hitting our pages. And you'd be like, well, this makes sense or doesn't make sense. Like, what would that minimum be typically?
Yeah, generally speaking, what we usually look for is at least 200,000 monthly visitors. If it's a high ticket item, it can be less than that. If it's, you're selling really, really high ticket items and that incremental needle move is really impactful, I think, going down to 100K monthly visitors could make sense. But generally speaking, we look for that 200 and above, all the way up to, millions and tens of millions.
Maybe let's talk about an example. So we can get into the weeds a little bit. And we will have Josh, I'm going to have him kind of share his screen and share through an example in a little bit, but talk about the pharma company a little bit and what they're doing.
Right. So one of the companies we work with is called L Nutra, which has this product called Prolon, which we've been optimizing for the last couple of months now. And this company is an e-commerce company. Their whole aim is to sell this product, Prolon. And when we started talking, they had explored other vendors. They explored conversion optimization agency offerings. They had explored testing tools. The reason why CoFrame was interesting to them is because it fully took conversion optimization off their plate, or their team was involved in the sense of approving different variations and experiments. But beyond that, we were able to completely drive the program. And within this matter of just a couple months, we've been able to drive really significant wins for them. I can't share exact numbers, but 20 to 30% plus conversion lifts, depending on the test. But this is what we've seen so far, which is for them, I think they're very happy.
I'm wondering, starting the company, right? Talk about building the team initially.
Yeah. So initially, it started out with me, myself, and I, a little bit of a lonely endeavor. I was just kind of hacking around, as I mentioned, with ideas related to self-improving user experiences, and had this product that could sort of like self-optimize your headline of your website, right? Just very simple. Find the best headline. You test a couple of variations out. You see what has the highest conversion rate or whatever you're optimizing for. You feed that back into the system, and it comes up with new ideas based on those results, and then that repeats endlessly. So at the beginning, it was pretty lonely. I built this out for fun, kind of on the side a little bit. Launched it, got some traction, got some investment interest. Decided to raise a pretty big financing round, and then at that point, we decided to bring on our initial team members. And my philosophy for finding people is you want to try to get the clearest sense of how they will work with you before you work fully with them. So something that's been very helpful to us is creating environments in which we can get to know someone in a work setting as well as we can before actually making that offer. So one of the strategies that's worked really well is hosting these hackathons. So a hackathon is an event where you bring together a bunch of people, usually software engineers or related functions, and you have either a day or a couple of days to build something completely brand new from scratch. And at the end of these hackathons, typically you have a judging session and people from the industry or people who are experts or what have you we'll be able to assess the different projects and kind of rank them, and you'll have prizes for the winners and so on. We've hosted several such hackathons. AGI House, which is that community that I mentioned that has the dinners, hosts very large, 200 person plus hackathons every other week or so. And CoFrame has sponsored a few of those. And of the ones that we've sponsored, we found several really great hires. I think we found like four of our very early founding team through these hackathons. Really get to know someone, how they build, and these are all basically what we did is we scooped up the first place winners for the hackathons. It was kind of our strategy. Um, so that's been a really fantastic, I guess, channel for us. Other than that, really, it's about kind of that personal network, like trying to figure out as much signal as you can about someone before you really go all in working with them. I've had the privilege of working with several incredible people throughout my career, and a few of those we brought in to work with on CoFrame. So that's my personal strategy. You really just want to try to get as much signal as possible before. Similar to A/B testing, right? You want to test, try to get as much signal as possible on variations before you implement them into the site fully.
What are some of the prizes or incentives at the hackathon? Obviously, there's companies there that can get hired. Do some of them get funded? Like, what are some of the prizes?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest prize for a lot of people, I think, is just the bragging rights. I mean, it's like, hey, I won this hackathon. Usually goes on your resume or whatever it is. But there are usually other prize, like
It's like street cred.
street cred. Yes,
Yeah.
for hacker, the most nerdy street cred possible. Um, but other common things are, they'll have sponsors there who will, offer credits for their platform. Some people offer cash prizes. I mean, these hackathons, we typically had prize award amounts in the like thousands of dollars. So it's not trivial. And a lot of companies will sponsor these hackathons for the purpose of getting visibility to those people that they can hire them. Um, I'm seeing a similar trend with venture capitalists going to hackathons to scout out talent that they might be able to put an investment into if they start a company either from the hackathon or thereafter.
Yeah. So I want to dig in a little bit because we jumped over. Yeah, we got customers, we got funding. I mean, all those things are big things, right? Like we got customers, then we raised capital,
Yeah.
and then built a team out. So I want to back up a little bit to kind of the journey just from a proof of concept. It sounds like product hunt. What was after that from like getting that initial proof of concept going?
Right. So the proof of concept phase for us was, for I guess me at the time, was really just kind of build something out and put it out there and see how it sticks. It was more for me than it was for other people, I would say. Just trying to get a sense of like, how does this thing behave in the world, and what are the properties or attributes, and how can we adapt from there, and how does this fit in with the North Star long-term vision? So from the proof of concept phase, there was a big learning, which is that proofs of concept are not equivalent to production ready environments, right? So put this out there. Many people were excited to use it. We got like thousands of users sign up for it within the first couple of weeks just on the product hunt launch. But in terms of value, providing value, there were a lot of holes. Like people, and it was also kind of, I would say, the wrong ICP. There were several people who, most of the people on Product Hunt, I would say, are kind of solopreneurs or just indie hackers. They don't have companies that have a lot of traffic, and that's really kind of what is very important for a CoFrame. And so, uh, something that I learned there, certainly I guess two main things. You got to pick your market. You got to pick a market intelligently, be thoughtful about that. Otherwise, you're going to waste time. And then the second thing is you have to have a distinction between what is proof of concept and what is ready for production. We certainly had a lot of, it was just me at the time. So, and I'm not like, I'm an okay software engineer. I'm not like an incredible one. And so, it fully worked. It worked end to end. I'm pretty proud of that. But it definitely had some rough areas. We would have scaling issues. There were times when the backend would just, go down at the time, and I wasn't sure why. Yeah, very grateful to have just an absolutely, all-star top tier team now that's able to take that over from where it was before. That's a really important distinction made. You can make it really, for a really nice demo, but a production ready and an actual usable product, especially in the AI world where it's so easy to spin up these new apps, is a really important kind of mental distinction to have.
At what point do you go, okay, you have all these amazing connections, Tata Crew purchased one of your previous companies. At what point do you go to them because they have a lot of consumer facing sites and you say, hey, I want you to try that. I'm sure like when you release in a product hunt, you weren't going to them and go, hey, I want you to try it. At what point in the journey you're like, you go to them, okay, it's ready. I want you to start using this.
Yeah, it certainly has to feel somewhat natural, I would say. The process by which I went about that was similar to how I actually initially got in touch with Tata Group, which was at a friend who was at the time when we first connected. I think she was a GM there, and we were catching up on the software that we had built for Access Bell. And she mentioned to me that there was an opportunity to evaluate this with respect to some of the vendors that they were evaluating at the time, Zoom and WebEx in particular. And that kicked off the conversation, and we kind of took it forward from there. And for CoFrame, it was a similar thing. I was catching up with my friend. I was talking about the recent happenings, and I think she had some questions about how is the AI space developing, and I was helping to be a little bit of a thought partner with her on that and connect her to other interesting companies and founders in the space. And the conversation naturally kind of arose, which was, why don't we explore this for Tata as well? And we actually have already had that conversation and have done a POC, which was, really successful. We across all the campaigns we were optimizing for, we drove an average incremental lift of over 50%, which was really great. And so now we've expanded into their consumer insurance arm, and we're now talking with a couple of other functions or organizations within Tata.
I mean,
Um,
they own car company. I mean, so don't they own like Land Rover and some other companies?
Yeah, Land Rover, Jaguar. Yeah, we're going to be talking with them pretty soon. We did a demo for Nexon in front of all of the group Tata CEOs. Actually, that's a funny story. So, my friend there, she's kind of overseeing a lot of AI initiatives and is helping to drive that strategy. It's a pretty incredible role, and she's doing a fantastic job at it. One of the things that she this was about I think 2 months ago at this point, and she messages me kind of I think out of the blue, roughly, and says, "Hey, I'm presenting to all of the group CEOs of Tata, like 60 or 70 of them." And I would like to give CoFrame an opportunity to be featured here. Like, do you have something that could be interesting for a demo? And I said, well, yeah, let's figure that out. When is the presentation going to be? She says on Saturday, which was like 3 days from then. So I didn't have anything like really ready for to show them
You're
at the
like,
time.
everyone drop everything. We need something for Saturday.
But that's the thing. We also had other big priorities with other big customers at the time, so I couldn't ask the team to like, drop everything. And so I had some support, but like basically Aparna and I worked together and we like, went back and forth and figured out what the right demo case would be. And the site in question was the Nexon, one of the Tata Motors properties. And so we created this demo. It was very much an 11th hour thing. It wasn't working, then it was working. It created some really cool variations. And she, we made the decision basically, I think it was 3 a.m. my time, where it was like, I had to make sure I was up for that because they were doing it in Dubai. And, and sure enough, they did the demo live in front of 60 or 70 CEOs on a real like website, and it worked beautifully. And so it was like one of those moments where it's like, oof, big relief. But we were able to show some really compelling variations of that site experience. We pulled up, or they, I should say, they pulled up Tesla as inspiration, another really great looking website. And one of the cool experiments was we basically Tesla-fied the Nexon website for Tata, and we were able to show that live. Another really cool experience variation was they were trying to highlight the entertainment infotainment system in the car, That was a main priority that they wanted to highlight there, and it's part of the arc of some of the other companies that they were featuring as well. And so one of the variations that we were able to come up with was a 3D version of that infotainment center, and that was actually one of those moments where I was shocked. I was like, wow, AI is so powerful. We were able to create these variations very quickly. For this demo, and it worked beautifully. So that was just a kind of a
Yeah.
fun story.
I want to get into some of the learnings of raising capital because I know with Autograph it was like 200 million and then you raised capital for CoFrame. But before we get into that, Josh, I know you have some, I'd love for you to share kind of like what a demo looks like. And I don't know if you can share your screen and pull it up for us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and do that right now. Um, Gotta get the Zoom thing working.
Yeah, as you do that,
There you
over
go.
here.
Cool. So should I just walk through this
Yeah,
and
yeah, go ahead.
cool. Okay. So to give you all some context, I mean, this is a demo of CoFrame on Walmart. And obviously a huge company, website conversion optimization is priority for them, like many others. And this is the basically the inner workings of how CoFrame works. This is not the product that people use. This is what we use to deliver what we do to customers. Basically, this is an interface to the like agent that we've built.
Customers basically, just correct me if I'm wrong, basically just install code on their website.
It's yes, so they can either install code on their website, or if they have an existing experimentation platform like Optimizely or Adobe Target or AB Tasty or VWO or others, we can also use that and go through that. The other thing that customers have to do is approve variations. They don't have to, but we like it that way. Making sure that what we're doing is aligned with what your brand wants, and make sure that we're if you're in a highly regulated industry like pharma or FinServ. That's a really important
It can't all of
aspect.
a sudden like make claims that you shouldn't be making.
Super important to not do that. So yeah, we have an approval process that we undergo for every experiment that we run, but it's a lot easier to do just an approval than it is to create all the way. But yeah, here's a quick demonstration of how it works. So I'm having it uh, come up with new experiment ideas for, in this case, Walmart. And the first step of CoFrame is it's pulling up the website experience in the browser in both desktop and mobile, and then it's coming up with some of those experiment ideas. And it's basically performing the role of a conversion optimization expert in this case. So we're going to actually move forward with idea number 9, which is this new product finder quiz. And now we're shifting CoFrame into the role of a basically software development team. It's going and actually iteratively building out the code for this experience that you can then go see live. This is a fully working variation, just the first pass, but it's a fully working variation that is deployed onto the site and could be tested within a click. I want to stress this point. Most people don't get this. What just happened in those few seconds usually takes weeks to create in a software development lifecycle. Like this is the whole thing kind of just delivered. And so, like I said, this is just the first pass, and we typically have kind of several iterations for each idea. But I obviously chopped this up a little bit and sped it up, of course. But this is something that takes a matter of hours or minutes, and it usually takes weeks to do that. So that's the first step of CoFrame is kind of being able to come up with those different experiment ideas and implement them. Now, what we're having it do is pull up a competitor Target for some additional competitive inspiration in Intel. So with Target, what we're kind of observing is a bunch of things that maybe could be worth testing on Walmart, but this is one of those tasks that would take a digital marketing analyst or team several hours or even days to perform, and you kind of have to do it constantly and keep on top of it. So we're going to implement this new idea, number 7, which is kind of featuring these Walmart Plus exclusive deals on Walmart from Target, because Target does a really good job of kind of featuring their loyalty program. And as you can see, it's featured in several different areas in the site, and it was kind of relatively instantaneous from a perspective of looking at the time it would usually take to create these ideas. So that's kind of an overview of how it works.
Was
And
that looking real time at that at Walmart? Because like right now we're talking and it is around the 4th of July and that's what was on the website.
I did this just a
Yeah.
couple days ago or
Yeah.
weeks ago. It's all a blur. I've done so many of
Yeah.
these demos for different companies that we're talking to, but yeah.
It's amazing. And what I love to hear about this, Josh, is even though obviously you have powered this with your engineers with AI, but I love to hear the thought process of what the AI engine goes through with it, right? And that's kind of cool just to see all the stuff that's happening in the background, like pulling up competitor sites and looking at different ideas and those, probably all the advice and feedback you've gotten from your clients, customers, from people like Justin as well as built into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been a very much an iterative process. We have this saying at CodeFrame that is first we are artisans, then we are automators. So we don't try to get ahead of the curve and try to automate too quickly. That's a mistake that I see a lot of companies in the AI world make. You really want to deeply understand it yourself, and then along that path of automation, ensuring that you're either performing just as good or better at each of those constituent steps to deliver that value. So the data that you give it, or like the context that you give it, really influences how effective this is. You asked about specific things that we're using. So competitive intel is one, looking at different competitor sites, pulling in insights from that. Previous experiment ideas that have been run and their results, that's really helpful. Things like qualitative research, if you've done voice of the customer type research and extracted learnings from there, that's extremely helpful. Analytics, of course, what are the user behaviors, session replays, and heat maps, and all that good stuff is very, very useful to identify friction points and things of that nature. And then finally, like the brand guidelines, making sure that we're actually aligned with the brands that the business has is also super, super important. So we take all these factors into consideration and have this, we call it the intelligence hub, where we kind of like aggregate all this information on a per customer basis, completely siloed per customer, of course, but use all that to help inform the ideas and the actual implemented variants that we create for the customers.
What are companies just doing now? I mean, I see that, like you said, this could take weeks, maybe more, right? And now we saw how quickly it was. I mean, I guess like the beast in the industry are the highest traffic consumer sites. When you look at Walmart, Target, Amazon, I mean, I'm sure Amazon has tested the nth degree. Like, what are these sites doing, these companies doing now to actually deploy these things?
It really depends on the culture of the company. It varies quite widely. In the past week, I talked to one company that these are both Fortune 100 companies. One of the companies, they're both very, very big, very consumer facing. One of the companies had, done less than 100 experiments in the last year, and the other company has 1,000 experiments going in any given week. And so it really just depends on the particular company. Where people are at on their experimentation journey is something that can have just an incredible amount of variance. And so what we like to offer as a value proposition is if you are not experimenting, enough. If you have room to experiment, then we will help significantly increase that to get you to the point of these other companies that are really crushing it with their high degree of testing. And if you are experimenting a lot, you're probably spending a lot to do it, and that's where the headcount requirement comes in. Lots of engineers, lots of designers, lots of PMs, etc. And we help to significantly reduce the load on these people so that they can focus on more important high level product work, because most of the experiments that people create simply get thrown away. I mean, that's kind of an industry known fact. One out of every 10 or so will be a winner. And of course, that depends on how you're experimenting and so on. That's just a study that Optimizely ran. But we see it too. It's a numbers game. You got to try a lot of things out before you hit those winners. And law of large numbers, you got to just if you try more things out, you're going to find more winners, and those winners are going to compound over time.
In the journey, I see like you tested it out. You're like, this was a side project, proof of concept. You got customers and you raised capital, built out a team. So I'd love to talk about the raising. You've what have your learnings from raising capital? And by the way, you introduced me to Brett Brauman. He came on the podcast of Coastal Ventures, who I know invested in CoFrame. We did talk about you and CoFrame on there. Brett's an awesome guy. What have you learned from raising capital?
Oh man, there's a lot of learnings. I sometimes we'll do these little like sessions at did one at Stanford recently for the like little student demo day and stuff like that. So I to kind of summarize, I think I can probably give a little bit of a summary here since it's fresh off the top of my head. There's basically a series of steps when you're fundraising. The first step is deciding whether it makes sense to fundraise. Now, fundraising is a very important choice. You really have to make it thoughtfully. And many people just kind of like let themselves get into it, and that's actually a big mistake because if you commit to doing a fundraise, you are committing to building this business and making and trying your very, very best to make it as successful as possible through thick and thin. And this is going to be the thing that you focus on. So that's a very, very important decision to make. Once you've made that decision, there are a variety of tactics and strategies for doing a successful fundraise. What it comes down to basically is, the first step is you want to talk to people who are friendlies, who are in your corner, folks who are going to give you feedback and kind of give you a sense of how viable is this to complete as a fundraise. The second step is you want to talk to your first institutional investors that are lower stakes, people who maybe if you don't end up working, if it doesn't end up working out, it's okay. You're not going to be heartbroken. And from there, what you want to do basically is as quickly as possible, get get a term sheet, an offer. And you're able to get a lot of signal from this process. It's you don't kind of like want to necessarily like officially start the raise before you really have something tangible. And by the way, every fundraise is super different. Like this is not necessarily how I did my fundraise at CoFrame. That sort of like was a little bit of a different process. But and also Autograph was quite different as well. I'm talking about generalizations, looking at lots of companies that I've had the pleasure of working with through their fundraises and founders that I know. Kind of the typical process, I would say. So once you have an offer from an investor, that's like the hard part. It's about ensuring that you talk to the people that you want to talk to, and it's going to be a lot easier to go into these conversations saying, "Hey, we already have an offer for a lead. We're interested in talking with you, and stick to a timeline." It's really important to be professional. Once you have that offer, you want to make sure you have a well-defined timeline for closing the fundraise. You don't want to drag this out. It's not courteous to them, not courteous to yourself. You just want to like get it done.
How
Um,
did you say ahead of time as far as CoFrame goes, how much you wanted to raise, or just it just depended on the conversations?
I had a loose idea of what I wanted to raise. Well, I wanted to raise more than the typical seed round because I knew this idea was going to be really big, and I wanted to give ourselves, the absolute best chance of taking a huge swing at it. And so that's the reason why we raised a little bit of a larger seed round. Um, Generally speaking, when approaching those discussions, you kind of want to have, if you're a business that's a little bit more established, you have kind of like, uh, you have your costs, you have your growth plans, your marketing plan, and so on. That can back into a number that you have as a target. And here's our use of funds over the next 12, 24, whatever months. And something else you really want to do in these conversations is like you don't necessarily, unless you have an offer and you're pretty stuck to like a certain valuation, you want to like say, hey, we're going to let the market decide the price of the valuation, right? We're raising this much or within this range, and we're going to let the market determine the price of it. That's a helpful mechanism because it's an auction system effectively, and that helps to get the most accurate price for your business. You don't want to be the one kind of making that call either too high or too low.
Why Khosla?
I mean, there's a bunch of reasons, but Khosla is just amazing in a lot of ways. And I mean, Khosla, super, super technical group of people. Like they're all builders. They're all very deep in it. It's very, very impressive group of folks. They're also very upfront with you. I think that's one of their core values is being extremely upfront and dare I say blunt. They'll push you. They'll push you when times are good. They'll push you when times are bad. Um, and so I did want someone who's going to push me and be upfront with me because I have a lot to learn and I want to do so in a way that is easy, most conducive to learning. And having things sugar coated is something that hinders learning, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, so
Based on closely, that discussion, who are some of your mentors throughout your career and some of the advice they gave you? I think I could be making this up, Josh, but I think you worked under Eric Schmidt at some point. Is that accurate?
yes,
Am
yes,
I,
yes. Yeah, I was an advisor for one of the funds that he anchored, and we
what'd you
actually
learn from him?
yeah, I mean Eric is an incredible human being. I mean he's just seen more than anyone else I've probably met in terms of specifically in this area, but just in general. Um, one of the things that one of the learnings that I had from him was we had a conversation about like how to operate, I guess, like how to operate, personally, individually. He had this really interesting analogy where he there that saying where it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. His point was when you're operating, it's neither a sprint nor a marathon. It's actually a bike race. And the reason it's a bike race is because you don't just have yourself in that process. When you're on a bike, you have the ability to change gears, you have the ability to stop pedaling, you have the ability to let the system do its work, and you're kind of building that out with a company, right? You have team that are able to like push forward, and what's really important is knowing what gear to be in at what time. And so, from an energy perspective as well as a leverage perspective, those two things, energy and leverage, that's kind of what drives forward a great business. He had that analogy. And so that's one of the things that actually hit me pretty close to heart, which is, I'm someone who just sometimes can get in a rut of just like grinding and like being in first gear and it's not beneficial sometimes. It's like, yeah, I'm putting the work. It feels good to work hard, but it's actually not the most important thing, or it's not like the right way to operate because you could be conserving your energy to allocate it somewhere else. And so I get in that rut a lot because I think that's kind of what helped me uh, build, a couple, things across my career. But it's not the way to really effectively scale myself. And so that was something that hit home. If I gotta go look back at my notes. There's so many things that I picked up from him that he's an amazing person.
Any other mentors? And I want to point out, I mean, he has some of my favorite books. He co-authored How Google Works, fantastic. Trillion Dollar Coach, fantastic. He's got several others. So I encourage people to check those out. Any other influential mentors in your journey? I mean, I know there's a lot, but anyone else come to mind?
Yeah, I've so many. I mean,
It could be a colleague too. I know you were mentioning like Ask Alex before. I don't know if there's a story there.
oh yeah, there's a lot of stories. I mean, those guys are incredible, Brian and Jordy. So they run this consultancy called Ask Alex, who we work with on really big kind of enterprise engagements. And I mean, I, there is I guess I'll share specifics, but not mention the actual company. There's a very, very large retailer that they work with, that we're starting to do some work on together. And I fly in person. They've been working with them for about 6 months, and this is to date been one of the most impressive like feats that I've seen in business. These two guys are like in their 30s, right? They're they're very down to earth. They're very friendly. Uh, they're technical. They're marketing, but they haven't been C levels at big companies, yet. And but they're so good at what they do, and I just observed this on site with this big retailer. Somehow, like these two guys who were had been working with them for about just over 6 months, I think, at the time, um, were so close with all of the C-level people at this company. Um, were able to just like they had driven a significant amount of value for them already, but it just like the amount of time spent versus the level of influence and level of value that they've driven was to me just like absolutely off the chart. I mean, like I couldn't believe it. And it's just one of those things where you realize if you are just extremely good at like getting in there, truly understanding a problem, like taking a first principles perspective for problem solving, and also importantly, navigating a large organization and being very interpersonally gifted, like that can take you such a long way. I mean, they're like uh, you know uh, they're the ones who are basically like watchdogging other big like consulting firms that this company is working with, like talking like the biggest.
We're working with some of the biggest companies, and you were just seeing kind of how they function.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So I'll just start that story, but I'll keep it brief. Okay, so there's these two guys that are an agency partner of ours, Brian and Jordy of Ask Alex. They're a consultancy, and this is one of the most impressive feats in business that I've seen so far. Um, these guys are in their 30s, right? They're very interpersonal. They're people, right? They're super good at what they
I
do.
have a quick question, Josh, on that because that did come through. What do you think it is about them
Yeah,
that when you observe from the outside that
you know,
makes them successful?
it's the approach, right? They're not talking about doing things; they're actually doing things, and this has been one of the things that I know the Doge initiative has kind of taken a little bit of a back seat, but that was something that I think was a breath of fresh air for a lot of folks in government that were experiencing bureaucracy and unable to do things. And so having someone come in, take a third party look at things and be like, we're going to do this and we're going to execute. That's something that they have been able to deliver for this huge retailer, and within the matter of 6 or 8 months, they're now at the point where they are basically overseeing a massive consultancy that, probably one of the biggest out there that they've been working with for a long time. And these consultancies, they'll talk about doing things a lot, but and when it comes to putting the rubber to the road, hasn't been all there. And so like these two guys who are in their 30s are at this point extremely close to all the C levels at this huge retailer, Fortune 50. And like overseeing one of the biggest consultancies, like making sure that they do their job right. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to someone, an entrepreneur earlier today. We were talking about the exact same thing, how just some of the people in the organization are such action takers and just go in and do it. And there's always going to be a huge need for those people who are just going to execute.
Mhm.
And so I do want to, first of all, thanks for sharing your journey, your stories. I want to, encourage people to check out coframe.com and learn more. I do want to, my last question is just around Autograph. Like we didn't talk about Autograph, but I'd love to have you share quickly like, what Autograph does and how the relationship with Tom Brady came about. And I'll,
Yeah.
I'll share Autograph too so people can check it out. It's autograph.io.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. We recently merged with this company called Future. And so that's kind of the main focus of the business right now. But the general idea behind Autograph, whereas we were in a moment in time back when we started the company, where a lot of well-known brands, celebrities, athletes, musicians, etc., were trying to enter into this new space, the Web3 and sort of like crypto space, to try to engage their audience in new and innovative ways. And the challenge with a lot of these initiatives was that there was not really like a brand safe way to do it. It was just very difficult for them to, get in there. It's a
It
new
was very
technology.
fragmented. People were probably hiring different people and trying to execute it in different
Yeah,
ways.
that's right. And I've got to say, a lot of the people in the industry, in the crypto industry, or a lot of the companies are a little bit shady, and it's just like kind of a little bit of it still has a little bit of ties to kind of like just being a seedy industry. And so like making sure you have that brand safety is paramount for these people. And on the flip side, a lot of consumers were also interested in getting into this technology, but it was difficult for them to approach it. And so the opportunity that we saw and executed on was helping these brands enter this into this technology in a brand safe way.
You can see some amazing people on here. You have Tiger Woods, Rob Gronkowski, Tony Hawk, Wayne Gretzky. If you're listening to the audio, we are showing the video part. Tom Brady, Derek Jeter, Dale Earnhardt Jr. I don't know if you want to talk about the Tom Brady use case. Like what are people doing with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tom is a very innovative guy. He's early to a lot of technologies, and we had a conversation at the very beginning of Autograph, or close to the beginning, because he was funny enough, he was a next door neighbor of my co-founders for Autograph for like 8 years. So that's where that connection point initially came up, and we had been getting a little bit of momentum and traction, and at one point we were like, we should talk to Tom about this. My co-founders identified that as a really interesting potential partnership strategy and had a conversation. And Tom was actually interested in doing more than just partner, but actually be a co-founder of this business. And so that's kind of where that came about. And he's the one who opened up a ton of doors and made a lot of these relationships with great athletes happen. Him and Rich Rosenblatt, who's another one of the co-founders, very well networked in, and my original co-founder Dylan as well. He's the CEO of the company. Just an incredible talent when it comes to connecting with people and getting people excited about this. So yeah, that's how we made it happen.
So it looks like for Tom or for any of this, the people on the platform, they may have a purchase NFT, and there's digital collectibles, and then there's this in-person event. So it's kind of a combination of digital and in-person experiences.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I love it. Josh, I know you have to run in a second. I'd love to hear, people should check out coframe.com to learn more. Are there any other places online we should point people to learn more?
CoFrame is a great one. There's a blog that we can point to, the OpenAI blog. We have a blog post with them, joint blog post that could be interesting if you're technical and want to kind of dig into some of the details. Otherwise, I would just say that CoFrame is going to be the place where you'll find everything that you probably need to know about it. And if you're interested in checking it out more deeply, go through the funnel, the little enter your website, get through that quiz questionnaire, set up a time with me, and we'll chat about it.
Love it. Josh, thanks so much. We'll see everyone next time.
Thank you, Jeremy. Great to see you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.